Good evening and welcome to our parent chat. Thanks to all of you joining us live right now, and welcome as well those of you that are watching this recorded after the fact. We hope that you continue to find these helpful. For those of you that I haven't connected with yet this summer, my name is Chad Eichhoff. I serve as the Director of Admissions here at NAU. I'm joined by my colleague Annika. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Annika Olson, and I serve as the Vice President for Enrollment Management here at Northern Arizona University. Thanks for spending some time with us.
So definitely continue to drop questions in the chat, and we do have some of our admissions team members in there. I think Nancy and Fred here in Flagstaff, and actually Tyler, who's based in Hawaii, is helping us out in the chat tonight. And if you happen to be watching from Hawaii as a family, I'd suggest connecting with Tyler. He's an awesome resource for you in your transition here to the mainland. So as always, super appreciative of the questions submitted ahead of time, and they'll help kind of drive some of the conversation here, but continue to drop them in the chat, and those folks I just mentioned will answer them in the chat, or if there's kind of a theme that's coming out, we will answer that on video as well. I'm going to start off with the kind of the big topic around advising in class schedules. That was a theme. We got a handful of questions in the survey ahead of time on that front, and kind of want to lay out the three-step piece of that, and all of it. I would suggest your student go to nau.edu/gateway. That's where all of our first year advising is housed with our Gateway Student Success Center there. And the first thing they want to complete is priority enrollment, if they haven't done so already, which begins that communication with the academic advisor. The second step is going to be either completing one of their larger group kind of webinar type things, or completing modules. That's an option in either or on that step two, either the modules or one of those group Zoom sessions. And then once your students completed both of those parts, looking to sign up for an individual advising appointment with their academic advisor. Certainly, if you have questions in that process or questions about the schedule, the general email address, gateway@nau.edu, is the email address that your students could email to ask questions about their schedule as they prepare for fall. We are continuing to add additional courses. It's common this time of year that there are some waitlisting that occurs, and that's really for us as an institution. Then we can gauge where there's interest, and it needs to be additional sections of courses added, and we continue to evaluate and add sections of courses. And I know a week or so ago, they just added about 250 seats of a math course that is a common math course and across the board, not just in math. Looking at adding capacity where needed. So that's a normal process that occurs throughout the summer as students get their class schedule set for fall. And then I know quite another big topic outside of that was financial broadly. Lots of different financial questions as we get closer to the time to pay bills, having tuition dispersed, all of that, or excuse me, financial aid dispersed. So I'm going to throw it over to Annika to just talk broadly on the financial front.
Great, thanks, Chad. And I did go ahead and enable my screen share here just to take you on a bit of a tour. And for those of you in the chat from the admissions team, if you could put this in the chat so it's an easily clickable journey for our guest tonight. This is the Office of Scholarships and Financial Aid website. And one thing I want to point out is that if you're interested in additional scholarships throughout the year, we have our foundation and advancement team that manages a group of scholarships. Those are our donor scholarships, sometimes super specific, but sometimes very broad in criteria. We also, in financial aid, in the late fall and into the early spring, have a number of departmental and other college scholarships, meaning College of Business or College of Arts and Letters, that we administer. And these would be in conjunction with your merit aid or your merit scholarship that your students already received. So all of that can be found here on this tile, but late fall into the early new year, calendar new year, is when those other additional scholarships open up. Traditionally, those aren't typically given to first-year students. Most of the criteria for those scholarships require being on campus for a semester, and then planning, and they would be awarded in the spring for the following academic year, but typically not awarded to first years. The other thing I want to make mention is if you have questions about loans, I think we had a couple questions submitted about what's the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans? And if I have a parent loan I want to look into, all of that can be found under the tile here. Subsidized loans, the federal government subsidizes the interest rate while your student's attending. And then after they've graduated, that's when interest will begin to kick in. So that's the best kind of loan to get, is the subsidized. Unsubsidized takes interest on the amount they take out each term. And so that's how that works. The last thing on this page I really want to point out is this 21-22 budget cost attendance worksheet and tutorial. When you click in there, you will have a worksheet that you can print out and work on based on your student's residency, whether they're an Arizona resident or joining us from one of our Western undergraduate exchange states, or are true non-residents. All the different tuition rates, as well as meal plans that you may have selected, are listed on there, so you can best map that out for your students' choices. I will say all of our fall bills are due to go out on Monday. So there were a ton of questions of when am I going to see this bill? And I picked a meal plan, but I don't see it yet. I did check in with our director of student accounts, and they've been adding those on a rolling basis. That's just typically how we've done it. And so all of those should be ready to go on Monday, July 19th. So those, our first bill gets mailed out, but then your student wants to log into their LUI account. So that's going to be the next little group of slides I show you here. So this is our financial aid holds and to-dos. So this is going to be an important page. Your student will become very accustomed to driving around and finding what they need in here. They can find their unofficial transcripts, their transfer credit. Right here in the middle, they can see all of their classes. This student just happens to have one at the moment, Math 108, but it shows where it's located. If students were to click on this weekly schedule, they could see a whole week view of in the blocks of time they're in class or lab. Any holds that's holding up any additional action for your student would be in the holds. And then we also have to-do items. They may not be holds or may not be holds yet, but we may need some items from them. This first one, official transcripts. Before we disperse or put on your student's account their financial aid, we need their final official high school transcript for you first years, or final official last transcript for you transfers. And if you're just graduated from high school, we need that final official with your graduation date on it. And then if you took dual enrollment courses, we would want that as well from that corresponding community college. We won't give you that financial aid, and this is a federal law, so it's not an NAU policy, that we can't disperse that financial aid to you until we have that final official transcript. So that does come, it's a to-do list item here, and then in the early summer, it becomes what we call, it's a hold called ATV hold. And I am happy to say that over 91% of our incoming class has that hold gone. It's done. They've done what they needed to do. But if you haven't yet, your student would have received a text message a week or two ago but also can log in here and see that as well. So that's one, at this time of year, common hold we get questions about. Additionally on this, you can view your financial aid. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over here. You also have a finance section. So you saw that view financial aid is still right here. You can do an account inquiry. You can look at doing a direct deposit. And I highly suggest students get in here if they haven't yet already and complete that direct deposit information, because for the emergency relief funds that we've been able to allocate to students, students have gotten it more quickly through direct deposit. If not, if there's any monies owed back to you, either after that financial aid disperses or through those CARES HERF funds, they're sent via live check to your permanent address. So getting it in students' hands just becomes a little longer of a process. So we always encourage that direct deposit. If you need to enroll in a payment plan, you're able to do that here. You can also view financial aid and federal work study eligibility here. Now, I mentioned on that website that there's this budget, cost, attendance, and tutorial. So you can download that and fill out what tuition rate you know you're going to get and meal plan that you're going to choose if you haven't chosen it already. And then you can enter all your financial aid. So grants, scholarships, loans, all of that good stuff on that sheet. And if you don't remember, if you click into an account inquiry, what's going to happen is you're going to be multiple tabs here. You can say, go and click on that pending financial aid, and you'll be able to see what that financial aid will look like for the fall. Now, the worksheet goes through the whole academic year. So you'll see tuition, fees, housing, dining, those types of things. If your student's living off campus and they have enough aid to cover beyond tuition and fees, and they're going to pay rent and have a meal plan off campus, that's where that direct deposit comes in, because then we would send those excess funds to their whatever account they have with direct deposit. And so then they'd have that money to do their other business they need off campus. So you can see the activity here, the charges due, the payments, and the pending aid. So this is a screen that our students become familiar with, and parents become familiar with it as well. Sitting alongside your student and saying, hey, can you log in so I can see what's what? Or your student can make you an authorized user, which again, I recommend. I have a student that will be starting his first year in college in August as well. And he has made me an authorized user so I can pay some of the bill. So it just gives you access to that as well. Chad, how did I do on, I know there was another question about, I see Lumberjack Scholarship should cover all of tuition, and yes, it should. And it will. It'll cover all the code that says TUT. That's our short code in our system for tuition. So TUT is tuition. Those mandatory fees Lumberjack does not cover mandatory fees. So I think those were the last two, but Chad, how did I do on my question? So once again, I'm just going to flash up this budget and cost of attendance worksheet. There also is a video you can link to with instructions, and then the PowerPoint. You have the LUI. You can go into financial aid. You can see any holds here. You can click around in lots of these. It's kind of fun. And then you can go, there's my account and financial aid. You can do account inquiry, and that's where you'll see this, and you can see that pending aid. So what's going to happen between now and the start of classes is that tuition is due. Chad, go ahead and give me the date. Oh, you're going to have to look it up. I know I said it the last time we were on, and we'll
spoke
send
last time, so I want to make sure. Yep.
Okay, we'll send all of those financial aid funds the day before tuition's due. That's why if you work your worksheet, and then if you're going to choose to do a monthly payment plan or pay it in one lump sum, it'll be crystal clear to you how much is going to be due on that tuition due date. So you take the tuition fees, room and board, subtract your financial aid, and then you have the remaining balance. And then you would apply that and say, okay, this is how much I'm going to owe, and then make the decision whether you're going to do a payment plan. In your first rent, just so you know, rent for residence halls is already split up into 3 payments throughout the fall. So you'll only see a partial payment for this first time. And that housing rent confirmation payment that you paid, $175, that will be deducted from that because that's the first part of your rent.
And August 16th is that tuition due date.
And so August 15th is when we will be sending those funds to your student's account. Actually, we'll start at the night of the 14th.
I think you covered the financial stuff well, and continue to ask if you've got clarifying questions in the chat. And thanks to the admissions team for jumping in there and answering a lot of those as they come in. I know ahead of time we had a question submitted around books and how to do that. And the best way I think to do that is to order it through the NAU bookstore, nau.edu/bookstore. We'll take you to the webpage and you can look up based upon courses, which books you'll need. And you can have it so that you can pick it up for free at the bookstore. So rather than have it shipped to your house and then have to pack it in your vehicle with all the other stuff you're moving with your student, you can have it go to the bookstore and then just pick it up when your student is here on campus. So that would be a suggestion that I'd give, and always suggest used books as a great option for more affordability, and also the opportunity to rent books. And double whammy would be renting a used book would be the most affordable way oftentimes to be able to get textbooks. Also wanted to hit real quick on the parking permit side of things. August 1st is when that's going to go live, the ability to purchase a parking permit for next year. And that is, for most of our lots, it's by the license plate. So you'll actually put that license plate in and not actually need a physical permit. One thing to make sure your students aware of is that with the parking by license plates, they do require that the students, the vehicle license plate is facing out towards the drive aisle. So I know in the state of Arizona here, we don't have front license plates typically, just on the back of the car. So make sure your students aware of pulling forward into a parking spot, or if they've got a larger vehicle perhaps and backing in is easier. It is possible to get an additional plate that's a NAU type plate that can go on the front of the vehicle. So that's a couple things about parking I wanted to touch on. I did see some different kind of move-in questions that came in both ahead of time and then also in the chat. And I'm going to share a screen here quick.
Ted, while you do that, there was a couple questions I can circle back to quickly. Athletics scholarships will begin to be posted to accounts next week, but it does depend on how quickly the coaches get that to our financial aid office, but they should be posted by the second week of August. For 529 accounts, that's a great question. You can have your student screenshot when they're here in advance that account inquiry and payments due and payments made. I know some 529s, you can have the 529 pay direct to the institution. Want to make sure your student ID is in the memo form or part of that communication. Or you can submit an invoice for repayment. So either one of those works. Our student and departmental accounts team is super familiar with working with those. I actually asked them a few questions early on for myself. And if you can't pay that all on the 16th and are on a payment plan, it's broken up over the next number of months of the semester. So Chad, now that you got that up, I will mute.
So looking at move-in dates and that move-in calendar, which I believe somebody had linked to this in the chat already too. for folks to go to, but nau.edu/move-in. And looking at that calendar, classes beginning on the 23rd, the general move-in dates kicking off on the 19th through the 22nd. And Alicia's joined us on some previous parent chats to talk housing. And she's reassured folks that there are plenty of move-in times on each of those days. So I know that you do not have the option yet for your student to choose the actual move-in time on that date. That will become available in August as far as the specific, I believe they're at 45-minute time slots that your student will choose from. But know that there will be times available on each of those calendar dates. So don't hold off on buying flights if you need to buy flights to get here. You will have options to move in on any of those calendar days. There's way more than enough actual time slots. We just do the selecting of specific times to stagger the move-in process a little bit and not have congestion as far as parking and going in and out of the buildings and hallways and all of that. But there are certainly times where times available, and maybe you won't get a 1 p.m., but you'll get a 2 p.m. Time slot kind of thing. So it will be close to the time that your preference would be. And again, look for that. And you see this note right here on their website. Don't forget to regularly check your NAU email. And that is just a good overall reminder in general to be having your students check their NAU email frequently. And you can always set up forwarding to other emails that they may check more frequently if they're not in the habit to do that yet. But housing is one of those departments, financial aid as well. We'll be communicating with that NAU email address, and that's just a great spot to be checking. Maybe faculty will reach out at some point in time. So really encourage you to encourage your student to be checking that NAU email address. So I know we touched on
one of the questions about housing and dining was, I missed that first one. Is there a recording? And there are 2 more. One's August 12th and one's July 29th. So if you couldn't catch it, then don't worry. And there are recordings of those presentations. And Chad, you want to talk through that YouTube channel that we have for all of those presentations, financing your education, housing and dining, and all of that good stuff?
Yep. Yeah, we love to have you join us live, but we realize it doesn't work in your schedule all the time. So those recordings, if you search in YouTube for NAU parents and families, and do that with an ampersand, NAU parents and families, that's going to take you to a page where it's got a few different playlist options there. And with that, you're going to have the financing your education, the housing and dining webinars, all the previous parent chats that we've done, forecast from Flagstaff, a section that we call Becoming Louis Smart, which is that student information system to be able to be kind of seeing some of those pages that Annika was talking through and showing there, so that your students can get a better sense of that piece. So please don't leave the parent webinar right now, but that's a good spot to head to after the fact and dive deeper and watch some more of those resources. And I always say this in all these too, we realize that this time of year, you might have questions that are specific to you, and certainly don't hesitate to reach out to our offices too. So admissions@nau.edu is a good starting point. And if we don't have the answer, we'll certainly direct you in the direction of somebody that does. So I know one of the questions that came in ahead of time, and we touched on it last parent chat a little bit, but I think it's worth raising again. And I'll throw this to you, Annika. The parent said, I'm interested to learn more about NAU's fire preparedness. As a resident of Northern California, I'm aware of the dangers of wildfire season, and just wondering kind of what NAU has planned there. And yeah, certainly in national news, the impacts across all of the Western US. So yeah, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Definitely. And as a Northern California native myself, and a resident of the Western United States for all but about 4 years, certainly fire and fire preparedness is certainly top of mind, as the West has just so many forest fires and wildfires burning currently. Fortunately, here in Flagstaff, we've had quite a dousing today of rain all afternoon. and unfortunately some flooding across town as a result. So yeah, kind of opposite end of the spectrum there. On campus, we have an emergency management group, and we run simulations, tabletop ones and actual simulations for a host of different potential emergencies, with the sole purpose of keeping our campus community safe. And that battery of exercises certainly includes wildfire. Oftentimes, being where we're located in town, next to the two major interstates here, we are the hub for the county and the city of a place to gather. We have our big Sky Dome on South Campus. That would be an easy gather and then get people out if that was necessary. We also have housed hotshot firefighters as they're fighting fires throughout Northern Arizona in our residence halls when that has been needed in previous years. So we do take that very seriously, given where we're located in the West, and certainly being from Northern California and having families still there, and making sure that air quality in our halls and in our classroom is top notch are all part of that. So certainly we had some smoke a few weeks ago that was kind of here, and thankfully we got some rain before the long holiday 4th of July weekend. So it's been clear since then. But for about a week there, we were keeping the windows closed and making sure that neighborhoods, or even neighborhoods where students and staff and faculty live, they knew they had a place to be should it come to an evacuation situation. And it didn't, thankfully, but we're ready if it ever would get to that.
And I think that latest fire situation where you talked about the smoke in town also shined a light on the fact that there's been a lot of forest thinning and controlled burns and stuff like that that have made Flagstaff a safer place because of those initiatives that have taken place. But obviously you can't remove all risk always, but that part certainly has helped. Annika, I was looking at the list of questions that came in ahead of time, and I think we've hit most of the main themes overall, unless you see anything that we missed.
No, and what I would add is there were some parents, and we love this too, asked super specific personal questions, and you should have been contacted either yesterday or today from individual team members to answer some of those, specific questions. So if you're like, Annika and Chad didn't answer our question, check that email, because you probably have a response from a team member. I know there's just a handful of those. Meal plans, one thing that I think is certainly worth mentioning, it was in the chat, but that chat's scrolling awfully fast, is that students typically have picked their meal plan in the housing portal when they're doing the housing paperwork, all of that good stuff. Typically new students pick a 10, 14, or 19 meal plan, and that means 10, 14, or 19 meals per week, and they reset on Saturdays. And then if you have a balance left over, they usually carry 1 or 2 or 3 meals over, depending on what meal plan you're on. All those meal plans include dining dollars, which serve as kind of a declining balance, if you will, for food and snacks and meals on campus if you run out of meals. So if I have a 10 meal plan and it's Saturday and I want to go, grab Starbucks or Einstein bagels, I can go and use that dining dollar declining balance to do so. You can always add dining dollars throughout the semester as well. The most common meal plan, I always get this question next, is that 14 meal a week, and averages 2 meals a day. And people go, oh, my kids, they eat 3 squares a day, and that's awesome. They would certainly go with the higher meal, the 19 meal plan there. But you do have a window of time that if your student comes to campus, and let's say they have the 14 meal plan, and they're like, yeah, just the way my class schedule works, and I have some cereal in the morning in my hall, so I'm not really eating breakfast. I think the 10 meal plan may be best. They have the first 2 weeks of class to change that meal plan. Each of those meal plans has a slightly different cost. And on that worksheet, all of those are listed on there. Our tuition, if you're looking at that and maybe you have a second student coming here, we haven't raised tuition in the last 3 years. So that tuition amount has remained stable over the last 3 years for our undergraduate students. And so that's exciting as well. I think someone mentioned a tuition increase since last year, and it hasn't increased, and our fees haven't increased. And actually, we took away many individual course fees. A lot of universities have course fees for some lab classes or some materials that may be included, and we've worked to minimize those over the last 5 or 6 years. And so I just thought I'd make mention of that as well. You're muted, Chad.
One a day. I'm good for one unmuting. So it didn't come in specifically, but I loved this question last time, and there may be parents joining that didn't see us at the last parent chat. Just kind of what to expect at move-in, like with your student, dropping them off, and how do you kind of parent advice or advice as a professional to, like, what does that look like? Are the students gonna say, hey, see you later? Are they gonna want you to stick around? Any advice you'd give there, Annika?
Yeah, and I will make mention, like, do we only have 45 minutes to move our kid in? Because that popped in there too. So what we do is we have this well orchestrated dance for move-in, so to speak. You have 45 minutes to be right next to the hall to get all the stuff out of the car, right? And we have these big bins that have wheels, and it's super seamless. You'll have someone meeting you there. We clean the carts in between. It's just a well executed machine. So you pull up to what we call a short-term parking. You unload everything in these bins. And then we'll direct you to a longer term parking, and then you can take hours to move in. Those move-in appointments are 45-minute time slots for getting in the short term and getting the stuff out. So if you're packing a U-Haul, you're probably packing too much stuff. You could always send stuff later, or your student can go home. Certainly for further students that are coming from out of state, that is a little different. But we have a Target right outside off campus, as well as a Walmart super close by, and a Sam's Club. So those are kind of the places that the locals get all their Target shopping done before the student move-in windows, because we know that's just a busy time in those, if you forget the fitted sheet or need to grab some popcorn or something. So I did want to make mention that. But Chad, I do appreciate that question. Students all may behave differently. They may want you to move them in and then say, okay, bye, I got it, because there will be tons of activities with Lumberjack Experience. A lot of things are coming together. I was on an email thread earlier from our traditional first football game running of the freshmen to the letters. That was really missed last year. So lots of different activities that will be available for your student to start connecting with other new students on day one. They will also meet their resident assistant that lives on their hall with them, and will encourage them to attend hall activities as well. But for a parent, I mean, this last year has looked a little different. You might want to stick around longer if you're going to stay a night or two here in town. You may want to kind of pre-plan with your student, like, hey, let's have brunch tomorrow morning, or finish settling in, and then depending on what your if you want to go to a dinner later and that type of thing. So I'd really kind of set those expectations, that I would like to have one meal with you before I leave, or let's grab a coffee or walk to the Starbucks on campus, whatever that is, if you want to make that happen. but some students will really be quite nervous, and so in the moment might not be able to totally tell you what they need. So kind of pre-gaming some of that, I think is super helpful. My student that I'll be dropping off and moving in as well is like, yeah, I can just take myself. And I'm like, well, turn out, like, I think we'll go together, So we're kind of trying to do that dance as well. Whereas my second child's like, oh, when I move in, I want you to stay, all weekend. I'm like, well, that might be a little much too. So, your student the best, and there will be supports here, and they will meet people. But it's a hard transition, certainly for them, especially in light of, being kind of out of the social scene with the COVID restrictions over the last 15 months or so. And certainly is a hard transition for you as well as a parent. I know it's not one that I'm looking forward to. Chad's heard me talk about it, and I get a little like teary about it because it's significant, but it's also really exciting. And you all as parents have done a great job getting them to this point. Chad, can you put in the chat the parent and family YouTube channel that has all those previous recordings?
I was just gonna show it actually too, even.
Oh,
here.
cool.
So I got it pulled up, and I'll screen share here because we've had a couple clarifying questions here. So NAU parents and family, if you search YouTube for that, you're going to see this channel pop up there. And with that, then there's all these different kind of playlists. So the financing your education, if you haven't had an opportunity to see that yet, it's got the opportunity to see that. All these parent chats and these screenshots of Annika and I live here forever. Looks like I wore a different shirt this week than on that screenshot there. Forecast from Flagstaff, housing and dining webinars, all of that. And that's a great opportunity if you've missed any of these to be able to watch them after the fact and take a deeper dive into things that make the most sense for you, or things that you want to dive deeper. And we do have another, and I'll minimize here, and I'm sharing a calendar as we look ahead here. Another Financing Your Education webinar, a live webinar tomorrow, 4 to 5 p.m. So if you want to catch us live and be able to ask questions on the fly in that webinar, that's an opportunity for you. There is another Spanish information session tomorrow. So if one of your family members or a family you know would benefit from attending that, certainly help us get the word out about that. Just these open Q&A times on Mondays in the afternoon for you or your student to be able to pop in and ask questions. That being said, don't feel like you have to wait until 4 to 5 on a Monday. You can certainly email us at any time. Again, admissions@nau.edu. Got another forecast from Flagstaff next week, followed by a parent chat the following week. And a couple things, we put it on the calendar so you know about them, but these are for your students. There's the Student Involvement Expo, so that opportunity to meet some different student clubs and organizations and have your students start to get plugged in prior to showing up here on campus. And then we also have our virtual part-time job fair happening on the 30th of this month. That being said, we do have a job portal that students could be checking out already. They don't have to wait until that job fair. It's called Handshake is the tool. nau.edu/handshake will take them there. And that's got postings of different campus jobs that your student can apply for. And I know we've got already the application out there for a student ambassador, for instance, but there's offices all around campus that are hiring student employees. And I always encourage, if students are looking for employment while they're in college, which is a great option for many students and a necessity for many students, that on-campus job is a great option because it's flexible. They know you're a student first, and they're gonna work with you on that. So they can start looking for jobs on that Handshake website, but then also I would encourage them to attend that virtual part-time job fair. If they're wondering about how to link to any of these, or maybe you're wondering that too, the NAU Go app is a great option to be able to then plug in to see all the links to get to each of these separate webinars. And we will continue to send out email reminders ahead of time too with direct links. So that kind of gives you the lay of the land coming ahead here. I've seen there have been a couple kind of COVID specific questions, which I guess we're starting to get back to some normalcy. If that's not last summer, that was certainly the majority of these parent chats was COVID topics. But we do want to make sure we at least touch base on that. So Annika, I'll throw it to you to kind of talk about the COVID front a little bit.
Sure. So the question was specifically around masking and the new variant. So I'll do my best to echo what our two health experts that were in our campus-wide town hall stated last week when staff members were asking a number of those questions as well. Our current executive order from the governor here in Arizona, for those of you outside of Arizona, it prevents institutions in the state of requiring masks, vaccinations, or random COVID testing. We can test and do plan to, but hopefully won't need to if there is an outbreak. And we do monitor outbreaks through a fine-tuned web of communications when a student or staff member says, hey, I tested positive. In terms of maskings with the variant, although we can't require, we are strongly encouraging students, faculty, and staff to get vaccinated. And when we did a survey of faculty and staff in the late spring, after we had vaccination on campus for a number of months and have continued to offer that throughout the summer in a statewide site here on campus, a very high percentage of faculty and staff did complete vaccination. And so now we're in the process of encouraging all of our students that are coming back to campus or starting with us this fall. And if your student is fully vaccinated and has their vaccination card, they can upload that on the Campus Health Services website, exactly where they would have uploaded that MMR information. If they haven't done that either, they can do both at the same time. And then we are launching, I'll give this group a little sneak peek, we are launching next week on our forecast an incentive, some incentives for students to upload that card with us. So in the event that there are booster shots or anything, we have that information and we can communicate effectively with students in that way. But again, not a requirement per our executive order from the governor's office, but certainly one that's highly encouraged. Also, certainly in terms of masks, vaccinations have been very helpful against that Delta variant that is the concern at present. And so that masking won't be required. But certainly, as we've learned with all things COVID, we will adapt and change should the situation warrant it. So we have a health advisory group and a fall planning and academic year planning group that has representatives from both on campus as well as experts in the community in the state on infectious diseases and things of that nature. So we are keeping pulse on what's happening. Bottom line is we want our students to be safe as well as our faculty and staff that are here to serve them and educate them. Oh, and the Jacks Are Back website, they just posted it in the chat. I was like, oh, that is getting a complete refresh. Literally, it might go live. I don't think it's live yet. It might go live later tonight, but certainly by midday tomorrow, all of that information about what if this and mask and vaccine and where can I get vaccinated, all of that is housed on our Jacks Are Back website. But again, full refresh, super excited about that. Our awesome marketing team's working on that. I know well, probably they're working on it, I'm sure right now, but it's due to go live either later tonight or tomorrow midday.
And that will be essentially the kind of one-stop shop, all questions COVID, and where is the best resource for those types of questions that may be coming in. I've seen a couple questions come in throughout that I wanted to touch on as far as kind of being on a wait list and if students should stay on that wait list. That's a great question for your academic advisor, or they can reach out broadly to the Gateway Student Success Center at gateway@nau.edu to ask those questions of if it makes sense to stay on that wait list, or maybe there's another class that's also of interest that they're considering that has availability, if they should take that class instead. And those are the types of conversations that can be navigated with the academic advisor and can help you decide, help your student decide if it makes sense to stay on that wait list or to register for another class or section that may currently be available.
Yeah, question from Kara came in about, I haven't seen where the mandatory fees are. The fees are about $623 a semester. They are those, and those are student voted on fees. So those aren't fees that we were like, oh, let's throw this fee on. Those are student kind of approved fees. And it does in fact include the rec center. It includes campus health services and mental health services, which we highlighted last week on the forecast from Flagstaff. So if you haven't seen that, check that out. And access to the pool. And so, yeah, it does include those things that you bundled in that question, Kara. So thanks for that. It also includes a technology fee, a green fee, a student government, student activities fee.
Transportation, did you say?
Transportation. So, and the thing about the transportation fee, here's a fun fact. If your student is bringing a car, not necessary, but if they are bringing one and purchase a parking permit, as Chad was sharing that process earlier, they then will not be charged that transportation fee. So that transportation fee works to run our Louis line bus system throughout campus, which is super helpful when the weather's less than pleasant, like today when it was pouring rain. And students are assigned a parking place next to their residence hall, so they can't really take that car and move around campus. But we do not charge you on top of your parking permit fee, the transportation fee either.
A question coming from John around his son's a mountain biker. He definitely won't be alone. There's other students mountain biking that have nice bikes, and there are bike lockers available on campus. I was actually just trying to find the friendly URL that would take you to that, but they are enclosed and lockable containers here on campus. I don't know, Annika, if you know if it's on the parking website they can come across that.
I think it's on transportation services, if I'm not mistaken. We also would encourage your student to register their bike, and through that process, this automatically happens and shared with our NAU police department. There also are students that keep them in their rooms. Usually, those are students that have paid to have a single room. But also, if your student doesn't want to do the bike locker thing and wants to get creative with storing it in the room, I have seen some creative ways of storing very nice bikes in residence hall room, but glad he's joining us. It sounds like he's a way more experienced mountain biker than me, but I try to get out there as well. This morning was a little muddy after our rain.
And I should say they're just general bike racks or typical outdoor bike racks too for your regular run-of-the-mill bike where you maybe are okay with it being outside and getting snowed on and all of that. And they're strategically located around residence halls and then throughout campus if they want to ride their bike to class.
A couple questions. 529, those mandatory fees. Yes, they are eligible because they are an educational expense, as are room and board. So yeah, so that's for grant. Kara, is AJAC only applicable to AZ Community College? Yeah, it's the Arizona General Education Curriculum. So that AJAC covers the 35 liberal study credits that students need to graduate. So a lot of students start at a community college, earn their AJAC, and then transfer it to a community college. I will say, and we do this with California residents, if they get what is called in California the IGETC, which is a similar block of programs to cover those liberal studies courses, we take that as the same block here in the state of Arizona. And that AJAC does work at many schools out of state as well. Michelle, there are discounts for students at Snowball on specific days and times, or if they want to buy a season pass, they can come in at the student rate, which is lower than what the likes of Chad and I pay. So, so there are.
And also skiing and snowboarding classes that students can take that's another way to get up on the mountain. So clarification on the parking thing that Brian just asked. For students living on campus, they do need to get a parking permit, and there is a charge for that. NAU.edu/parking is where they can go to get that permit. And I'm told rates are going to be the same as they were last year on that. So whatever rates you see posted out there for the previous year, if they don't have this new year posted yet, gives you a sense of what students will pay for that. The registration piece, that was specific to bicycles too, that you can register those. And if, hopefully not, but if the bicycle went missing and turned up, they would know it was your students and be able to return it back to them.
Yeah. How do you access Louis account? This is kind of fun trying to beat those team members that are in the chat as we're doing live Q&A. So, so how do you access your Louis account? Your student can log in nau.edu/Louis. They can also go to it from the NAU Go app, which if you haven't already, they have a login and a password they've established. I often get the question of, well, can't my student just give me that password? We do have a dual authentication that so many institutions and companies are using now to make sure that information stays safe. So that typically isn't the best way, but they can add you as an authorized user as a parent. Parking permits aren't available until August 1st, and it's recognition by plate, so there's no permit that you need to collect. You can go in, put your license plate, make, model of the car. Your student would need to log in to do that, and then purchase that permit. And then the permits go from August 15th to August 15th of the following year. So it is a full calendar year. For the direct deposit, so I always get this question from parents, like, should I just give it to me? Like, I'm going to be paying the bill. The direct deposit money should come back to me. And there's two ways to look at that. You can set up your direct deposit. I suggest having your student set that up for a few different reasons. The CARES and HERF funds that we sent are direct aid to students. And so that would go straight into their direct deposit account. Additionally, once they establish that, if they have enough financial aid to cover tuition and fees and room and board, and they have an excess of funds, but you're planning to have them use that for miscellaneous items, their books, for example, we still want them to, brush their teeth, and they might need to do a Target run mid-semester, that kind of thing, or weekly, depending on your student. Those are the types of things that those funds can be used for. So sometimes it's just easier to send it to your students so they have those fees accessible, but certainly a family decision for you to make.
One thing I wanted to throw out there, because people got really excited about this when you talk about little charges here or there, is that laundry is included with your housing. So your students don't need to be having a big stack of quarters, or we used to have it on the Jax card ID where you'd be loading money on there and then utilizing that to pay for laundry. So it's going to be included. Laundry's free or included with the overall housing cost. So don't have to worry about getting your students money to do that, or for your students to keep track of that piece.
And also, each room comes with a refrigerator and a freezer unit and microwave. So if you've already purchased one, you can take that back because they won't need it. And it's a pretty decent sized one. Actually, you can fit like a whole thing of regular size ice cream, more than one in the freezer, which is a good thing to have if you're an ice cream person.
Just want to clarify there, I don't believe it comes with a microwave, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, comes with a refrigerator and a freezer unit.
That's
Yep.
why I'm always so hooked on the ice cream.
But that would be a good thing to have your student touch base with their roommate to make sure you don't end up with 2 microwaves in a room. And there are on the Residence Life website, there's a whole what to bring and what not to bring thing when you go to their website, and has some kind of essential stuff, maybes, do not bring type stuff. So it helps them have a sense of that. And actually, maybe I'll share screen here quick so that you all can see that page too. So this is on the Housing and Residence Life website, what to bring. And it talks here that every room comes with the furniture. So it's got the bed, the desk, the chairs, refrigerator, freezer combo, and then Ethernet and Wi-Fi connectivity. And there's also a kitchen within the building where students, if they enjoy cooking and want to do some of that on their own, there is that facility for them to utilize. And then there's a breakdown of essential things to bring. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time talking through each of these, but you and your student can do that on their own. Maybe category, if there's room, and then do not bring type stuff. So open heating element type things for the safety of the community, not having something like that in place there. And you can see the weapons policy as well available there for your student and you to go through at your leisure and get a sense of what to pack. And looks like they've got a nice printable checklist as well too on their website that might be of use for you when you're actually packing and getting stuff put together for that trip to campus. Well, as always, I hope that these are super helpful for all of you. And I know that many of you tuning in maybe didn't attend college yourself, which is totally normal. About 46% of our students coming are first generation college students where their parents don't have a college degree. And many of you that did attend college, the world was different back then and college was different back then. So we realize it's a lot to navigate and figure out. And we want to continue to be a resource for you and your students. And I say this every time we do these, but you showing up here for these types of things shows how dedicated you are to helping your student. And we really hope that you found this helpful tonight. But those individual questions, admissions@nau.edu, don't hesitate to reach out. And we will answer those questions to help make you feel comfortable with sending your student here to campus and help your student feel comfortable, because we've got a whole team. Annika are just a couple people, but there's hundreds, thousands of employees and faculty here on campus that are excited about making a great transition for your student to campus this fall. So looking forward to that vibrant campus experience this fall. And those of you that are Phoenix Suns fans, I think the game's about to kick off. So go cheer on your Phoenix Suns tonight.
Not kickoff, tip off.
Did I say kickoff? And I used to be a basketball coach. That's scary.
Take care.